What's going on, everyone? Hope you all are having a good Christmas. Who am I kidding? I uploaded today, so obviously everyone's having a good Christmas. But I want to talk about the X Defiant conspiracy, or more importantly, like if Ubisoft is shutting down X Defiant with good intentions or not. Because we all know they shut it down, and like 3 or 4 seasons worth of content have been added. Like they're practically a whole season ahead in terms of completed shit, and they had a bunch of concepts and ideas for further seasons that have been implemented into the season 3 update, if you want to call it that. And a lot of people have been saying that Ubisoft must be money laundering or some shit. But the thing is, when a company is money laundering, that usually means that they're inexplicably successful. Like they're just making so much goddamn money despite all odds. Like, you'd have like a pizza shop or something, like half the employees are just behind the counter smoking, like talking on the phone, and practically don't know how to make a pizza. And like none of the people are there to actually work. They're just there to have a front to make it look like they're a legitimate business in case somebody wants to come in and inspect or, do an audit or something. Like they just need to have somebody there just to prove that, like, yes, this is a real business. But somehow, like, despite none of your friends ever going there, you don't know one person that could tell you, like, any item off of their menu or some shit, and they're inexplicably just raking in so much money. That's what money laundering is. Like, the business is successful despite all odds, most likely money laundering. But the thing about this is, Ubisoft isn't really that successful, and I was guessing, like, pre-2025 close, like they'd start liquidating shit. Like I'm talking like the physical desk at the Ubisoft headquarters, where the employees work and stuff. Like they'd start selling shit. They'd start fucking ripping up the carpet, taking pictures off the wall, selling the frames. Like I'd expect the company to go under with how their stock price has been performing. Like in 2020, their stock price was about $21, and their market cap was like 8 billion or so. In 2024, like this year, about 10 months ago, it was like 3.5 billion. Now the Ubisoft stock is like 1.5 billion, or I guess my screen says 1.61, but still they went down to a third of their value in a year after going down half of their value in 4 years. I figured like any investor that sees the line from 2020 to now would just not invest in Ubisoft. They couldn't get another round of investors to like keep the company going, and they just decided they're going to liquidate and shut down by 2025. But apparently that's not happening. Apparently Ubisoft is still going. And one thing that I noticed that really pissed me off, the servers for Tom Clancy's The Division, a game that released in 2016, 8 years ago, and for some reason it's still $30 on Steam, by the way, when it's not on sale. But yeah, the servers are still up for an 8-year-old game, so it's not like they were just simply running out of money and had to liquidate, sell the physical server computers, and sell the office desks, like, they were going to shut down. Apparently, whatever fucking executives are at Ubisoft must have been like, oh, well, Call of Duty releases yearly, and X Defiant doesn't have the same amount of sales and didn't make the profits that Call of Duty made, and it's been a year, so shut it down, guys. Everyone shut down the whole fucking X Defiant department. Which I don't even understand. It's like they don't want money. The game was practically already done. There was a whole bunch of content that was already done. The developers were pretty, like, actually passionate about the game, unlike a lot of studios. And for whatever reason, they decided to shut down this game instead of just turning on the servers and just generating free money. Like, all of the marketing was done for them, like, via all of the social media and YouTube, because God knows they didn't pay for marketing. But apparently that's not enough. So apparently X Defiant making all the money it did is not enough, and apparently The Division 1 makes more money than X Defiant, which it doesn't. Where is all of this money going to? How are they still like, okay, we have to shut down X Defiant? Like, first of all, the player count wasn't even that bad. Like, they obfuscated the player count first of all by putting it on their proprietary launcher, and like you can't view the player count on Steam, but from the data that people could gather, like the player count wasn't dwindling. It was actually going up at the time that it got, slit in the throat. Because honestly, there has to be some foul play involved, either from Activision or internally, because it was the only thing competing with COD. It was still making money. Like, if the bottom line is the only thing that matters, why shut it down if it's in the green? Why not milk it for every last dollar it can possibly get and then shut it down? Like, if player count was the only reason it shut down, instead of like shutting down the game and not continuing to make money, they could have just used like a little bit of that money that they made from, having XDefiant up, the whole point of making the game to make money. They could have used some of that to market the game and put out a couple ads, and then more people would have played it because it's a free game. On top of it being free, its only not only competitor, but its main competitor, like this game was called the COD killer by a lot of the community. COD basically is killing itself. A lot of the people that paid even $70 for Black Ops 6 at the launch aren't playing it now. And then instead of keeping up something that was steadily earning them money, they just decide to cancel that. Like, come up with a bullshit reason too, like the player count, even though the Division player count is nowhere near XDefiant, and it's an 8-year-old game, and apparently they use more money to make an NFT game, which has proven not to work because Ubisoft made, Rainbow Six Siege NFTs, and everybody made fun of them for being so late to the NFT party. And this was like 3 years ago, like at the tail end of NFTs. And then they decide to do it when NFTs, first of all, their NFTs specifically were hated by their community. And NFTs have only gotten like 100 times less popular since 2021. And NFTs are basically just receipts. It's a gimmick. It just means like you basically have a receipt that's signed by thousands of computers around the world, solving algorithms for the blockchain. And instead of like, instead of like having a ledger to transfer coins and stuff, you're just keeping track of who owns what. That's practically what an NFT is. And it doesn't really make any sense having NFTs in a game because, I guess it's cool, it won't go away, but if the game server shut down, the NFT is completely worthless and useless. There's no speculative value. The value in NFTs, like most NFT projects have a gimmick attached, and they all try to build up some sort of community, and it's kind of like the crypto scams. They have like a community, and they're saying that it's going to be like the next big thing, and you want to get it on the ground floor. But this is just like attaching an NFT to an already existing IP, and on top of that, in a medium where having an NFT wouldn't even make any sense at all. Rest assured, the 86 and the rest of Eden's heroes are doing everything in their power to... I can't believe these motherfuckers. They replaced me. Oh my god. What am I gonna do? This is pretty much what's going on inside of Ubisoft headquarters right now. And I don't even know why they thought they needed a TV show of Raymond on coke, or why they thought that this would somehow sell more NFTs, spending money on making multiple seasons of this. Supposedly there's supposed to be a season 2. It was supposed to be for 2024, but I mean it's Christmas, so it doesn't seem like it's ever gonna come. Hopefully it never ever comes. Hopefully it gets canceled, but no official things have been released by Ubisoft saying it's got canceled yet. Hopefully it is though, because there's no excuse for the shitty ass fucking decision making. Canceling XDefiant when they already had content planned ahead. Like, why not at least wait to drop season 3 before you're gonna close down the whole servers? And then they also refunded everybody that bought the Founders Pack, probably just to avoid a class action lawsuit, which I understand. But if the company is that scared of not making money, why keep an 8-year-old game going? especially when the Division 2 is already released. Ubisoft shut down the California studio and the one in Osaka, and they're probably like just about ready to shut down the one in Australia. So they have the one in France and the one in Paris. Ubisoft has like 20 studios for whatever fucking reason, and they have so many in so many countries around the world. I feel like in 2025, more and more studios are going to shut down because, I mean, their net worth went down to like less than 20% of what it was like less than 5 years ago. And the stock price isn't like exactly correlated to how successful the company is, but it's directly correlated to how successful investors think the company will be. And most investors usually want to make money. They don't want to just throw money into a pit because they would go to a casino or some shit. But there's a lot of stuff going on, like, you know, directly in front of our eyes, like shit like the new Assassin's Creed game not being very received well by fans. The new Rayman NFT immediately being hated. Their first NFTs immediately being hated. Uh, you know, a lot more and more people on Siege cheating every day. The anti-cheat not really working that well. I don't play that game, but anybody that does play that game, that's all they complain about is just how badly Ubisoft has like abandoned this game. What I mean by that is like they do add seasons and new content, but they hardly ever fix the quality of life or fix bugs unless they're completely forced to. But the player count is like half of what it used to be about 3 years ago. I don't see Ubisoft surviving another 5 years if they keep doing the shit that they're doing and releasing shit that nobody wants or completely changing IPs that people already wanted and just doing stupid shit to them, like completely ruining games or just outright shutting them down because they're not making money fast enough because they don't immediately save the dying company. So instead of like making a little bit of money and maybe investing it in advertising or actually making a good game again, they just shut it down and then release a shitty ass NFT project. And then also they had that pirate game that was supposed to be the first quadruple A video game, and it was a huge flop on a release. They completely missed the mark. They already had a game that was pretty much what people wanted. You know, it was very similar with in terms of combat to like Assassin's Creed Black Flag and shit. And they built upon those mechanics and turned it into like a full-fledged pirate game. But it got scrapped and reworked multiple times, and they just threw tens of millions of dollars away. And then for all of that budget and all of those years of delaying the release, the game still completely sucked. Like compared to indie games, like it just completely sucked. It was a shitty game. If they just released it as like any other game, kind of silently, it would probably be fine. But the fact that they hyped it up as the first quadruple A game, and they just figured like people would immediately fall in love because it had Ubisoft's name on it. I seriously think there must be the most successful spy ever at an Ubisoft studio or at their main office that is just able to completely fuck over the company and somehow like get away with sneaking the most ass backwards decisions you've ever seen into their like day-to-day routine. But they canceled a couple mobile games and The Division, like the third one, The Division Heartland, which was supposed to be a free-to-play shooter game. But what I don't understand is, like, why do they get most of the way through developing these games and then just scrap them? They, like, seem to delay all of the projects until, like, the game is no longer relevant or the original team is no longer there and the whole project is lost. And then they're just like, okay, screw it, just scrap it, and then they just lose tens of millions of dollars. And then they just try to squeeze the life out of whatever fans are still playing Siege or whatever. But they're starting to realize, like, people have zero brand loyalty to any like game studio if they're not making good games anymore, and especially if they're just canceling games that were good. Like seriously, why make 5 mobile games, get halfway through developing them, and then cancel them all instead of making one mobile game and then, having like a decent chance of making money off of that? It seems like there's some person from a different company or some shit intentionally like inserting the most stupid decisions that we've ever fucking seen. Like, I don't know, there has to be some nefarious explanation for just how stupid they are, because they're criminally stupid. Most people were like kind of like bored of Xify it because they were scared Ubisoft was just gonna shut it down anyway, because they weren't fixing basic shit like the hit registration. Well, I mean, that's not basic, that's like the fabric of the entire game. A shooter basically relies on hit registration, but you can't have bad hit registration. You can't just have that be acceptable. Like, people eventually get tired of that. Like on top of the good matchmaking and like the fun game in general, like it's a pretty decent game. If your input isn't always consistent, it's just gonna not feel right, and it's not gonna be fun if you're just basically relying on your luck, and if the servers are gonna like properly place your shot or not, and it fucking feels like you're the guy from Wanted or some shit shooting around corners. And they never fixed that, even during the whole beta, during the season 0. We all thought it would come in season 1. Never happened. Season 2 came, they never fixed it. They just keep adding content, and it's like they had a plan all laid out like years in advance on how they should add content to the game, and they have the developers just focusing on adding that, according to their whatever you call it, like their timeline or you know their roadmap, whatever the fuck it's called, when a new game has like a content layout for the next couple of years. And they probably have one internally, but it's like they have to ask the management. They're like, okay, but can we fix the bugs? And then they're like, no, we still have to make all this content. And then they're like, oh well, people aren't fucking playing the game anymore because we've just been adding content but not actually fixing the basis of this fucking content. And then they're like, okay, shut it down. And then they're surprised when people are like aren't very trusting of a Ubisoft game, and people are like already hating the new Assassin's Creed game before it's even out. Like, politics aside, people just aren't really excited for any Ubisoft IP because they know like the franchise is just gonna turn into a money grab. But anyway, that's it. One like equals one less investor at Ubisoft. Thanks for watching.